by Debbie Hazelton, excuse
Whatever
me.
your name is.
Sorry. And the title is, What Else is Possible? Please help me welcome her.
Well, thank you. It is so great to be back up here again with you all. It's so great. You know, I was listening to that song, and I was thinking about this group, this community, this congregation, and how much weaving, how much wovenness there is in an ongoing way. Yes, we do need volunteers, and I want to say a plug about that, because really, if you think of a church as a family, a spiritual community as a family, then all family members pitch in and do aspects of what it takes to keep everything moving and flowing. So just know that if you're a family member here, and if you want to become one, we definitely all are needed. But I see so much good work that's happening. Jackie, I mean, wow, your guitar has, I remember, wow, you hear that? It's incredible how much, I would not, if you told me Geneve was playing, I'd think that was what I was hearing, that's just how much you have moved into this role and how well you're doing. And so it is definitely, there's so much good that's happening. And I got to tell you, I am funny about titles. Poor Audrey kept hearing me say about the titles that were given, and you all heard me say, "Oh, but that title. Well, I'm not, I'm not on the page with that title." Some of the titles that have been coming down the pike, and I think it's because I'm an INFP. If you know your Myers-Briggs typology, that means I am an introvert. I am a intuitive, a feeler, and a perceiver. And a perceiver is someone who is constantly perceiving what's next, and not wanting to just put the lid on something and take it in the linear way that maybe it's given. Now, the title that was supposed to be for today is Loose the Consciousness, and there actually is a place for that in this, in what I want to say. But I love titles, and actually so does Des, because lots of times one person in the house will say something, and Des or I will say that line like it's a book title by that person who said it. And years ago, a friend of mine and I used to go out to eat a lot, and we would write a limerick everywhere we went. It didn't last for too long, but we would do this. We would write limericks. I don't remember most of the limericks, but each limerick had two titles. And all I remember are the two titles of one limerick. I had a bad cold, and so the first title was Musings on Mucus for Music Makers. And the second was, With phlegm like that, who needs enemies? So cleverness, cleverness. And really, cleverness is about creative thinking. And that's a lot of what I want to talk to you about today, is thinking creatively. Now, this particular talk actually has three titles, but I'm only giving you the one for now, which is What Else is Possible? When I took Access Consciousness by Gary Douglas years ago, it was something I took for continuing education, there were two questions that stuck with me that never fail. They never fail if it's already good and you want it to get even better, or if it's not good and you want it to get better. And one of those questions is, what else is possible? And the other question is, how does it get even better than this? Or how does it get any better than this? If it's really good, and people say, wow, how does it get even better than this? Or how does it get any better than this? People will often say, it's as good as it gets. But how does it get even better than this? Or any better than this? Wow. And I've heard Gary Douglas say that there are people that forget to ask those questions. And if they're really on an abundance roll of lots of good happening and lots of abundance that's moving through their lives, and it stops flowing in, it's because they stopped asking They stopped asking either what else is possible or how does it get any better or even better than this. Now, when I hear that question, how does it get any better than this, I imagine a circle of chairs, a tight circle of chairs. And all of a sudden, someone comes into the room and they're like, oh, I guess there's no room for me. And what happens? Everyone moves back enough so that we can fit in more chairs. Well, that question, actually both of these questions, allow for more space. They allow us to think beyond what we normally are aware of that's happening. They allow us to just consider that there is more that's possible. So I've said before here that I think a lot of people have expectations that are too low, and that most people in the mainstream out there are arguing for their limitations. They're thinking that what they see and what they have known is all there is. And another title that came up, Des and I were just, oh man, one day we were on a stream of titles and she was making T-shirts. Am I into this thing? Okay. She was making different T-shirts, and we found ourselves with another one that she went and had made. The T-shirt says, is your no consciousness, your KNOW consciousness, a NO consciousness? Is your no consciousness a no consciousness? Are you assuming that the answer is no? And are you assuming that that's just because you know that right now, or you knew that before, are you assuming that that's all there is? And there are people, and maybe they're not here today, it may be friends of ours or friends of yours, that maybe none of you do these things, but there are times when people, even in New Thought, will assume, well, that's as good as it gets. Well, this is the way it's always been done. This is the way it is. That's all there is, and that's the way it's going to be from here on. Now, I was born 3 months early, and I had 1 in 1,000 chances of living 12 hours. My mother was told that I would be slow. You think? You know, I think that I appeared slow because I was despondent. I wasn't interested in the way that things were being presented to me, and maybe at times I was slow. But I came in with that real determination that I'm going to make it. And so if you listen to the average conversation of what's going on out there, it reminds me of processed food, I gotta say. It really reminds me of processed food. And I have said, I don't know if I've said it here or not, but I think two of the biggest problems are over-processed food and under-processed emotions. A lot of the energy out there, the communication out there, is filled with sort of platitude advice giving, victim consciousness, not really much original thinking, not much creative thought. And most of television, I heard years ago, most of television is geared to an 8th grade mentality. So if that's the case, and if what I read is that our education system has continued to dumb our kids down, if maybe in some of us were dumbed down, maybe until we came into New Thought, I think that a lot of what's out there is not necessarily as healthy for us as our New Thought. And most of the people who do that kind of communication are not in the best health. They'll give you their organ recital. They'll give you their woundology. And that's what they're used to. That's what's predictable. And it's statements like, you know how it always turns out, especially when people watch the news. And you can never win, will never win, never in a lifetime will things change. I heard this yesterday. Somebody said, well, they haven't changed yet, and so they never will. And my mother always said, we will always have war. No, but those people who say those things, they believe that they will never change, and they believe that many other things will not change. And I'm sorry, but you know what? I believe as long as we watch that stuff, even if we know better, it gets into our minds. It gets into our minds, and it affects us. So giving out advice based on old thinking. So what happens if we are relying just on that old thinking? It's kind of like what I call the wine barrel, but it's the wine barrel. And there's a lot of sloshing around in that wine barrel. Now, years ago, I ran into something called the parable of the dipper and the bucket. And I don't remember if I talked about that in here or not. But the bucket is a container. It's like a container that we carry that allows for us to have good in our lives. It's actually written about as though that container has to do with our self-esteem. But I want it to be right now a container that we each carry that allows for possibility, allows for good in our lives. Are you carrying a container that is big enough to receive all the good that you really want and that you can bring into your life? And I've had clients. I used to have a little girl that told me she would carry a thimble, and she would allow it, and then she'd take it home and pour it in a big bin and lock it up. But when we make room for possibility, then we can take in so much more beyond the assumptions, beyond the way things look, and lose the consciousness. What's really cool about that title is that to allow for possibility, to allow for what else is possible, we need to let go of what we're holding on to. We need to let go of what we're thinking. We need to let go of what's in our minds and even sometimes what's in our hearts. Because if we are holding on to a lot of what we assume will be, and we're trying to make sure we've got a good hold on it, guess what? Our grip is so tight, we can't allow more good to come in. Steve Jobs knew not to go to what people already knew to find out what was going to be what they would really embrace, what they would really want. He said, no, not to go to what people already knew. So sometimes we need to go beyond. And so there's my next title, and it is Consider the Source. Consider the source. Now, we know this term when we want to deal with how people are communicating. Somebody's got a rant, somebody's full of gossip, and we say, consider the source. Okay, consider that person's point of view. That's where they're coming from. But what about considering the source, the capital S-O-U-R-C-E, the essence, the presence of all that is? With God, all things are possible. And when we hear those statements, I like to substitute. If I don't say it out loud, I'll say it in my own mind. People often, one of the ones that people say a lot is, you say something that's negative or that's going on, that's unfortunate, or that somebody's ill or something, and the phrase, always something, like it's always going to be another something that's negative. And I will say to myself or out loud, always something good right around the corner. Always something good that's possible. But if we consider the source, the magnificence, the brilliance of source, the ever-constant regenerative power that is just moving in us, through us, the activity, we know that the miracles that have happened. I want you to think back to anything that has happened in your life, and it could even be in the last hours, days, weeks, months, years. Think back to any debacle that you've been in, any really challenging situation, things that seemed like, oh man, this is going to take a lot of work to get through. This is going to be just so much. And then notice what has happened to turn it around. And I really think that is what we can remember to strengthen our faith, to strengthen our trust that this source is moving through us. And all we really need to do is to remind ourselves, our spirit doesn't break, but our conscious connection sometimes gets a little mangled, and we're not always as tuned in. But if we remind ourselves and we say, oh yes, Spirit, I am willing, I am even slightly willing, please take this and work through me, make this. Our angels, our guides, are so willing and eager to do the perfect work through us. All we need to do is to just let them be in the driver's seat. Let them do their perfect work through us. And so, one of the things that I hear, and I know it's true, and I deal with it myself, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. We know this. And we know it all too well when we deal with things like the traffic and the news and the bills and all these different things that need our attention. And we deal with frustration sometimes. So how do we deal with that while we're also wanting to make sure that we're doing our spiritual work and putting spirit first, putting source first? How do we deal with the fact that we're having a human experience? Well, Jill Bolt Taylor, who got healed from having a stroke, she said she had done a lot of research about the brain and the nervous system, and she actually had already done it before she had her stroke, so she knew what was happening when she had her stroke. And but she said she tells her emotions, okay, I'm going to give you 5 minutes, or I'm going to give you 15 minutes, and all of you little negative emotions that want to have your say, I'll give you a few minutes. You can, have those times to say what you want, and she'll listen to them like they're children. And she'll say, okay, have your say. And then when time's up, she says, okay, I'm getting back in the driver's seat now. You've had your say, we don't need to ignore our feelings and deny them as though they're not real, they're not a part of our experience. Because I don't think we're punished by Source. I don't think we're really punished for what seems like mistakes or for not always feeling great and wonderful every moment of the day. But when we can give ourselves moments and then get in the driver's seat, then, okay, we're not invalidating our feelings. We're validating, this is my experience, this is my feelings. And then I like to even think of what Jesus said, cast the burden, and give it to the angels, the guides, the source, whoever, whatever you want to call it. I don't think it matters as long as we know that we're giving it beyond our human self. So I think what we're really aiming to do is to balance our beliefs and our emotions with our behavior. And we want our behavior to be congruent with our beliefs. So we're not affirming on one hand and then saying a bunch of other slop on the other hand. We want to get on the same page with all that. And it reminds me of that awful, menacing word, responsibility. Oh, man. A lot of us don't like to think about having to be responsible. It reminds me of chores. Oh, man, I don't want to do more chores. But what if we think of responsibility like Fritz Perls said, the father of Gestalt therapy? Responsibility, the ability to respond. And I really like that because I think that we are in a pivotal time in our collective life here on this planet, in our building of history. It's easy to want to sort of turn away from a lot of what's happening, but it occurred to me the other day that we are rewriting a new collective story of all of us together. And we're learning in a larger lesson through all these behaviors of others. We're learning more about when we have either been kind or unkind. And when others have been kind or unkind to us or to others we care about. We're learning about when we have respected boundaries and not, when we have had our boundaries respected or not. We're learning about what it takes to have integrity, to live and express with integrity, to live and what it means to be transparent. And so that is all about responsibility, the ability to respond and learn different ways. We don't always know what to say. Nobody always knows what to say. And it isn't about always doing it right, but it is about being open, and being open is about saying what else is possible and consider the source. Now, my third title is, What Are You Feeding? What belief system does your behavior support? What are you feeding? Which frequency do you want to tune into on the radio or on the TV or of the thoughts in your mind? What do you want to tune into? Do you want to tune into all that riffraff that's out there, all that processed food mentality? Or do you want to tune into the new thoughts that know that with God all things are possible? And so when we know that all things are possible, then it behooves us to ask more often, what else is possible? You know, I know that I'm proof positive of living in the unseen. If it weren't meant for us to learn about the unseen, I don't think I would be here in this body, in this uniform that I wear of blindness. I wouldn't be in this. I don't think it would exist. It exists because it's possible to live in it. And so living in the unseen is where I know that much of spirit is, and I know that that is much of where more greater possibility lies. So what else is possible? Consider the source in wondering about that, and notice what you're feeding. Thank you. And let's see, let's go into a little bit of meditation, and then we'll do the affirmation. So let's just be in our space right now, and knowing that we are always in the presence, the wonderful presence of the essence, the great mystery, the great spirit that is within every single cell of who we are and all around us. And that with the awareness of this presence, we can count on all things being possible with God. All things being possible, because there is nowhere that this God that we know is not. There is nowhere. And so we consider the source of all that is, and we choose to feed our higher consciousness. We choose to allow it to work for us, through us, as us, and we choose to take responsibility, to practice our responsibility, and to allow others to do the same, to allow others to grow in their responsibility as well. And so it is. And our affirmation today, you have it on your... Oh, okay. All right. Today I exercise complete confidence and know that new and wonderful ideas are coming to me now. And so it is. And, okay, now let me get myself just a slight bit organized here. I have a song for you, and I have not sung here before, so this is really a great opportunity. I used to, actually was a lyric soprano for many years, and now my voice has gotten lower. And I like the works of Abbi Spinner McBride, and she is a Native American artist who has been doing, I'm trying to get to the right place here. Okay, so that's after. Okay. Abbi Spinner McBride, what I like about the Native American teachings is that they really use all the elements of the earth, the air, the fire, the water, and they acknowledge the Great Spirit. So I'm going to, Miss Des is going to play the drum. Yes, she is. And, oh, that was one other note I was going to add. Can't risk it, no biscuit. I found that somewhere the other day, and I said, oh, yeah, that's perfect. Okay, now let me get... Okay, so I'm going to teach you two parts to this that I'm going to ask you to sing with me, and one of them is going to be when you hear, I am all that I am. So when you hear that, I want you to sing that with me. I am all that I am. And I know some of you might be singing an octave higher, but that's okay. So then you're going to pick up, we're going to sing this other part several times, and I know if I start it once, you'll pick up on it with me, okay? It's called Behold. Okay, drummer? Yeah. Behold, there is magic all around us. Behold, there is magic all around us. Behold, there is magic all around us. Awaken, rejoice, and sing. Your turn. Behold, there is magic all around us. Behold, there is magic all around us. Behold, there is magic all around us. Awaken, rejoice, and sing. I am the air around you. I am the breath of life within you. I am the wind blowing through you. I am all that I am. Behold, there is magic all around us. Behold, there is magic all around us. Behold, there is magic all around us. Awaken, rejoice, and sing. I am the fire around you. I am the spark of life within you. I am the flame burning through you. I am all that I am. Behold, there is magic all around us. Behold, there is magic all around us. Behold, there is magic all around us. Awaken, rejoice, and sing. I am the water around you. I am the pulse of life within you. I am the ocean flowing through you. I am all that I am. Behold, there is magic all around us. Behold, there is magic all around us. Behold, there is magic all around us. Awaken, rejoice, and sing. I am the earth around you. I am the heartbeat within you. I am the ground beneath you. I am all that I am. Behold, there is magic all around us. Yes, behold, there is magic all around us. Behold, there is magic all around us. Awaken, rejoice, and sing. I am the Spirit around you. I am divinity within you. I am the light shining through you. I am all that I am. Behold, there is magic all around us. Behold, there is magic all around us. Yeah, behold, there is magic all around us. Awaken, rejoice, and sing. Behold, there is magic all around. Yeah, behold, there is magic all around. It's all around us. Yeah, behold, there is magic all around us. Awaken, rejoice, and sing. Awaken, rejoice, and sing. Awaken, rejoice.